All right, the goal for this video is to kind of put a bow on where we've been this week, which is looking at French colonialism in Algeria and how that may lead to anger. There are there's more than just this, but these are such key pieces I want to emphasize them. So again, there's more than just this, but these are worth underlining. So there's obviously economic causes um, of Algerian anger. We have the destruction of Algerian economic lifeways because it's valuable as a European settlement, as a colony. It is important to the French as a source of food supplies, as a source of cash crops, as a market for European goods. But all of that is, as a result, there's a profound loss of good land, arable land. There's just a thin slice of good arable land in Algeria. It's very, very good. But although it's the largest country in Africa, most of it is the Sahara. So, because of the economic benefits to the colonial state, the economic negative impact on Muslims is profound. We also need to look at the fact that the brutality of the French military during the time of Abdul Qadir, through the Mokhrani uprising, through the responses to the French military in the 20th century, we have a profound loss of human life due to the French military. As I mentioned earlier, in an earlier lecture, a third of the population of Algeria drops in a third from 1848 to 1871, or 1830 to 1871. The population is dropped by a third. But you have, following that, tens of thousands of people who are killed, and of course hundreds of thousands of lives disrupted. There is an insult to Islam and to Arabic culture that stretches back not only to the Ottomans, but prior, right? This is Islam has been here since at least 750 AD, 750 CE. So the insult to it. I mean, the first piece is a loss of money. The second piece is loss of life. But what are the psychological, the cultural impacts of the insult to Islam and culture? It's profound. It shouldn't be understated. It's what people fight for. Our life, our way of life, right? How often do we hear that phrase? Our way of life. We're fighting for our way of life. This is linked in with it. It's not just money. It's not just bodies on the battlefield. It's what kind of future do you imagine in the future? What do you want for your kids? There is also a hallmark, a centerpiece of French rule is the construction of this apartheid state, segregationist state, and it's really, you can see it in the land policy. You can see colons have this green lush area, and the Algerian area is overgrazed. It's dry, it's prone to erosion, it's overfull. People are living in cities. People don't have free movement. And we can see, of course, and that ties to South Africa. You can absolutely see ties to Native Americans and some qualities to segregationist American South. And we've mentioned on many cases land theft, this technically called expropriation of land, but maybe let's just use simpler language. It's theft. So these are sitting in place for over 100 years. But there are some shorter term causes of Algerian anger. We have the rejection of the Violette Plan in 36. We have a message being sent to Muslims by the French government, by the colons, that we're not going to listen to you. You don't have a way of redressing your complaints. You don't have a way of petitioning the government. You don't have a vote. We're not going to listen to you, even if you ask for something small. Too bad. That radicalizes people. All the pieces that we spoke up with World War II and World War I, the hypocrisy of fighting a war for democracy, yet maintaining a colonial state. We saw recently the French government and the Cologne settlers' responses to the Sétif massacre. This creates a culture of fear. We haven't discussed it yet, but we will pick it up later. But we have the destruction of this Algerian paramilitary group that's seeking to kind of continue the fighting, but in a different way. It's destroyed by 51. But also in this whole environment, post World War II, we have a time period of global decolonization. Everybody's talking about it. I mean, not to sound too flip, but like it's clearly happening globally. India has its independence in 47. The UN is set up in 45. The Third World Non-Aligned Movement has its big conference in Bandung, Indonesia, in 1955. African leaders in sub-Saharan Africa are pushing. Ghana gains its independence in 1957. So all over the world, the map looks different year over year over year as new countries are created and borders are changed. And Algerians look around and they say, what the heck? Why doesn't this apply here? And that's also a source of anger, that the French are recalcitrant, the French don't want change. So let's tick through these real quick. These are things you know I just wanted to put in front of you again. You have the land dispossession of the 19th century. You have this idea that Muslims are French subjects, that is to say they have to follow French rules, but they are not French citizens, which is to say they can't vote, they can't cause the government to change its policies. They just have to follow. We have language policy. We have the loss of Islamic law. No political rights, legal rights, obviously. Limited freedom of movement. We'll see this again when we come to South Africa with the pass laws of South Africa. Rigged elections so that when there was an Algerian assembly, the only people who won the Muslim seats were those who backed colonial rule. So the elections, if there are when there are seats set aside for Muslims, the elections were rigged so that the candidate who actually supported colonial rule was the one who won. I've mentioned the massive economic gap before as well.